The lake was a mirror, reflecting the sky's fading fire as I sat on the dock, my heart pounding louder than the cicadas in the pines. I'd been here 100 times with Ethan, my best friend since high school, but today felt different, like the air itself was holding its breath. By the time he cast his line into the water, I knew I was in trouble. We'd grown up in the small town of Willow Creek, Michigan, where the world seemed to end at the county line. Ethan, with his broad shoulders and easy grin, was the guy everyone loved. Captain of the football team, prom king, the kind of straight guy who could charm a room without trying. I, Lucas, was the quiet one. The artist with paint-splattered jeans and a secret I'd buried deeper than the lake's darkest depths. I was in love with him, had been for years. But Ethan was straight, and I'd spent a decade convincing myself that fishing trips and late-night talks were enough. Today, though, something was off. Ethan's usual banter was quieter, his eyes lingering on me longer than they should. We'd driven out to Lake Huron, just the two of us, to escape the monotony of our mid-20s lives. Me, a graphic designer freelancing from a cramped apartment. Him, a mechanic who'd just broken up with his girlfriend, Sarah. The breakup had hit him hard, and I'd suggested this trip to clear his head. Now, as the sun dipped low, painting the water gold, I wondered if I'd made a mistake. Lucas, you ever think about just leaving? Ethan's voice broke the silence, low and rough. He wasn't looking at me, his gaze fixed on the ripples spreading from his fishing line. Leaving Willow Creek? I asked, adjusting my rod to buy time. My heart was doing that thing again, racing like it knew something I didn't. Yeah, or everything. The whole damn script. Job, family, expectations. He turned to me then, his brown eyes catching the light, and I swear I forgot how to breathe. Don't you ever want to just be someone else? I swallowed hard, the weight of his words pressing against my chest. Ethan didn't talk like this, philosophical, raw. He was the guy who laughed off pain, who fixed cars and cracked jokes, not the one who questioned his entire life. I wanted to ask what he meant, to dig into the crack in his voice, but fear held me back. What if I said too much? What if he saw the truth in my eyes? I guess, I said carefully. Sometimes I wonder who I'd be if I didn't have to hide parts of myself. It was the closest I'd ever come to admitting it aloud. My pulse thundered, and I stared at the water, praying he wouldn't push. He didn't. Instead, he reeled in his line, the soft click of the reel filling the space between us. You're lucky, you know, he said after a moment. You've always been you, unapologetic. I envy that. I laughed, sharp and bitter, before I could stop myself. Unapologetic? Ethan, I'm a coward. The words slipped out, raw and unfiltered, and I froze. I said too much. His head snapped up, his brows furrowing. What are you talking about? You're the bravest guy I know. You moved to Chicago, built a life, came out to your folks even though they flipped. That's not cowardice. I stared at him, my throat tight. He didn't know. He didn't know that every time he smiled at me, every time he slung an arm around my shoulders, I was fighting a war inside, to keep my feelings locked away, to keep our friendship safe. You don't get it? I whispered, barely audible. There's stuff I can't even tell you. The silence that followed was heavy, charged with something I couldn't name. Ethan set his rod down, leaning closer, his knee brushing mine. Try me, he said, his voice soft but firm. Whatever it is, Lucas, you can tell me. My heart screamed to confess, to spill the truth I'd carried for years. But the fear was stronger, fear of losing him, of breaking the only thing that had ever felt like home. I shook my head, forcing a smile. It's nothing, just stupid stuff. He didn't buy it. I could see it in the way his jaw tightened, the way his eyes searched mine. But before he could push, a fish tugged at his line, snapping the tension. He laughed, grabbing his rod, and the moment passed. or so I thought. As we packed up that evening, the air cooler and the stars beginning to prick the sky, Ethan bumped my shoulder with his. "This was good," he said, his voice warm. "I needed this. You always know how to pull me out of my head." I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "Anytime, man." The words felt hollow, like I was betraying him by not saying more. As we drove back to Willow Creek, the lake fading in the rearview, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. That day on the lake wasn't just a fishing trip. It was the beginning of something I wasn't ready for. The next week was a blur of restless nights and half-finished sketches. I couldn't stop replaying that moment on the dock. Ethan's eyes, his words, the way his knee had brushed mine. I told myself it was nothing, just my heart twisting every glance into something it wasn't. But when Ethan texted me to hang out again, this time at his place, I felt that same nervous energy from the lake. His apartment was a small, cluttered space above the auto shop where he worked, smelling of motor oil and pine air freshener. Posters of classic cars lined the walls, and a worn couch sat in the corner, where we'd spent countless nights playing video games or arguing about music. Tonight, though, the air felt different, like a storm was brewing beneath the surface. "You okay?" Ethan asked as he handed me a beer, his fingers brushing mine for a split second too long. He was wearing a faded flannel, sleeves rolled up, and I tried not to notice the way his forearms flexed as he leaned against the counter. "Yeah, just tired," I lied, taking a swig to avoid his gaze. The truth was I was unraveling. Every moment with him felt like a tightrope walk. One wrong step and I'd fall. He nodded, but his eyes didn't leave me. "You've been weird since the lake. What's going on, Lucas?" I froze, the bottle halfway to my lips. He wasn't letting it go. Part of me wanted to bolt, to make some excuse and leave before I said something I couldn't take back. But another part, the reckless, desperate part, wanted to tell him everything. "Nothing's going on," I said, my voice tighter than I meant. "Just work stress. Freelance life, you know?" He didn't buy it. Ethan crossed the room, sitting on the couch beside me, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his body. "Bullshit," he said. But there was no edge to it, just concern. "You're my best friend, man. I know when you're hiding something." My chest ached. Best friend. The words were a knife, cutting through the hope I'd been foolish enough to let grow. I set the beer down, my hands shaking. "Ethan, drop it. Please." But he didn't. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Lucas, whatever it is, you don't have to carry it alone. I'm here." The room felt too small, the air too thick. I stood abruptly, pacing to the window, staring out at the neon sign of the shop below. My reflection stared back, pale and haunted. "You don't understand," I said, my voice breaking. "If I tell you, it changes everything." "Then let it change," he said, standing now, his voice steady but laced with something I couldn't place. "I'm not going anywhere." I turned to face him, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The truth clawed at my throat, demanding to be free. "Ethan, I'm in love with you," I blurted, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "I have been for years. And I know you're straight, I know it's impossible, but I can't keep pretending it's not there." The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan's face was unreadable, his eyes wide, his lips parted like he'd been punched. I braced myself for the worst. Anger, rejection, the end of us. But he didn't move away. He didn't speak. He just stood there, staring at me, and for the first time in years, I felt like he was really seeing me. The seconds stretched into eternity. Ethan's silence was a weight, pressing down until I couldn't breathe. I'd ruined everything. Our friendship, the easy rhythm of our lives, the safety of the space we'd built together. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. "Lucas," he finally said, his voice low, almost a whisper. He took a step toward me, then stopped, like he wasn't sure what came next. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," I said quickly, my voice trembling. "I shouldn't have. God, I'm sorry. Just forget it. Okay? Let's pretend this never happened." No, the word was sharp, cutting through my panic. He took another step, closing the distance between us. "I'm not gonna pretend. You deserve better than that." My heart stuttered. "Ethan, you don't owe me anything. I know you don't feel that way. I just couldn't keep it in anymore." He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling heavily. "It's not that simple, Lucas. He stopped, his jaw tightening. "I've been trying to figure out what's going on with me. The breakup with Sarah, it wasn't just about her. It was me. I've been feeling things I don't understand. And you." He broke off, looking away, and my stomach twisted. Was he saying what I thought he was? Or was I projecting, desperate for any scrap of hope? "Me what?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He met my eyes, and there was something raw there, something I'd never seen before. "You make me question everything. The way you look at me, the way you've always been there, I don't know what it means, but it's not nothing." My breath caught. This wasn't rejection, but it wasn't a confession either. It was something in between, fragile and unformed, and it terrified me as much as it thrilled me. "Ethan, you don't have to figure it out right now," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "But I can't keep pretending I'm okay with just being your friend. It hurts too much." He flinched like my words had struck him. "I don't want to hurt you," he said, his voice breaking. "You're the most important person in my life. I just need time." Time. It was a lifeline and a cage all at once. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Okay, take all the time you need. I'll be here." The rest of the night was quiet, both of us tiptoeing around the truth we'd cracked open. We played a round of cards, the kind of normalcy that felt like a lie now. When I left, Ethan hugged me. A real hug, not the usual bro pat on the back, and I felt his heartbeat against mine, steady and strong. It was enough to keep me hoping, even if it scared me to death. The next month was torture. Ethan and I still hung out, but every moment was charged with what we weren't saying. He'd catch my eye across a room, and I'd see the questions in his gaze, the same ones I was too afraid to ask. I threw myself into work, sketching furiously, trying to drown out the ache in my chest. But every line I drew turned into him. His jaw, his eyes, the way his smile could light up a room. One night he called me, his voice urgent. "Can you meet me at the lake? I need to talk." My heart raced as I drove to Lake Huron, the same dock where this had all started. It was late, the moon casting a silver path across the water. Ethan was already there, sitting with his knees drawn up, a bottle of whiskey beside him. He looked tired, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. "Hey," I said softly, sitting beside him. The air was cool, the night alive with crickets and the soft lap of waves. "Hey," he echoed, offering me the bottle. I took a sip, the burn grounding me. "I've been thinking. A lot." "About what?" I asked, though I already knew. "You. Us." He paused, staring at the water. "I've never questioned who I am, Lucas. I've always known my place. Small town guy, mechanic, straight. But you make me see things differently. I don't know if I'm ready for what that means, but I know I don't want to lose you." My heart swelled, but fear kept me grounded. "Ethan, I can't be your experiment. If you're not sure, I'm sure about you." He cut in, his voice fierce. He turned to me, his eyes blazing. "I don't know what I am, but I know I care about you. More than I've ever cared about anyone." The world tilted. I wanted to believe him, to grab this moment and hold it tight, but doubt gnawed at me. What happens if you change your mind? If you wake up one day and realize this isn't you? He reached for my hand, his fingers warm and steady. I don't have all the answers, but I'm here and I'm trying. Can that be enough for now? I looked at our joined hands, the moonlight glinting off the water, and something inside me softened. Yeah, I whispered. It's enough. We sat there for hours, talking, laughing, letting the truth settle between us. It wasn't a fairy tale, not yet, but it was real. And for the first time, I felt like I wasn't alone in this. The months that followed were a dance of hope and uncertainty. Ethan and I were something new, something undefined, but every moment with him felt like a gift. We'd meet at the lake, at his apartment, in the quiet corners of our small town, stealing moments that belonged only to us. He was still figuring himself out, and I was learning to trust that he wouldn't break my heart. One evening, as autumn painted Willow Creek in shades of crimson and gold, we went back to the lake. The dock was the same, but we weren't. Ethan took my hand as we sat, his thumb tracing circles on my skin. I told my mom about us, he said quietly. I froze, my heart in my throat. What did she say? He smiled, a little sad, a little proud. She was confused at first, but she said, if you make me happy, that's all that matters. Tears pricked my eyes. Do I make you happy? He turned to me, his gaze steady. More than you know. Then, before I could respond, he leaned in and kissed me. It was soft, tentative, but it carried the weight of everything we'd been through. The fear, the doubt, the love that had grown despite it all. When we pulled apart, I laughed, breathless. I didn't think this would ever happen. Me neither, he admitted, his grin boyish and bright. But I'm glad it did. We stayed there until the stars came out, talking about the future, not just ours, but the one we wanted to build. Ethan wasn't sure what label fit him, and I didn't need one. What mattered was us. This bond we'd forged on a lake under a fading sun. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. As we walked back to the car, hand in hand, I realized something. Love wasn't about knowing all the answers. It was about showing up, being brave, and choosing each other, even when the world didn't make it easy. That day on the lake had changed everything. Not because it was a fairy tale, but because it was real, messy, beautiful, and worth every risk.